I don't know, I mean, are companies getting tax breaks for
energy costs? Yeah. So the question is about the regulation involved in the energy side. So are there incentives that the government's putting in, whether local, federal, to be able to incentivize reducing energy? And absolutely, they're all over the place. So the issue is that you're trying to solve the quote-unquote energy crisis or deal with it effectively, you have one of two options. You either increase supply or you reduce demand, right? So they want to incentivize both of them. So on the lighting side, my personal opinion is that lighting works without help. It's very simple. We have old technology, new technologies come along, it's very easy to replace, you don't really need an incentive. I think it actually confuses things, it makes it more difficult. It's like when I walk into a company and I say, half the energy, twice the light, they're like, okay, I get that. Now when I go, well, here's this tax form, here's an EPAC tax credit, here's a rebate you're going to get from the local government, and all of a sudden he starts seeing risk. He starts going, I don't understand this, I'm going to talk to my boss, I don't want to get in trouble, and it takes 6 months to close a deal, so it takes 6 weeks. Now the flip side of it is on the energy generation side, I mean, there's certain things just not going to happen completely with a free market. But the lighting side, it's incredibly complex. I mean, it's like you have to check weekly to figure out if they changed the law and they didn't tell you. Oh, you used to get a $100 rebate for replacing a 1,000-watt fixture, now it's $80. All right, let's change our entire proposal format. Now, granted, so we have a computer price, it's not that hard, but any old contracts, a guy calls me up and says, oh, I'm ready to do the deal now, and you're like, yeah, bad news, 20% lower on the rebate now. And he's like, what? So all of a sudden he thinks he lost something. And I'm like, no, I didn't take anything away from you, I just didn't give you a bigger gain. But they don't look at it that way. And now all of a sudden he doesn't want to close because he's like, this is too complicated. So, anyways.
Yeah, and there's the theoretical issue whether government should do it. And I suppose that they're changing all the time, that sort of violates all the principles of the rule of law. I mean, going back to Hayek, right? You want to be able to predict what you can do, what risks you can take. But I suppose as an entrepreneur who's doing this kind of work, you can sit around and criticize the government. Basically, you have to take the landscape. Right? The deals you're looking at are taking what's out there again, current regulations and all that, and looking for where the opportunities are.
And it makes sense. I understand why governments and corporations want to work together to try to facilitate a solution. The problem is, oftentimes, it just moves way too fast. And it's like, by the time you actually put the regulation in place, you put the paperwork together, you now have a department that handles it, new things come out. Not all the time. And so I don't have like a strong feeling on that one way or the other, because I can make the argument where there should be incentives, again, essentially for things that, the purpose would be a place where only the government can play a role, right? Only where they can assume that kind of collective risk. And that makes perfect sense to me. The problem is how, who are the folks making those decisions? And then to your point earlier, it's probably large corporations advising them on which things they would want. Like for example, it was completely transparent and well understood that GE advised the government on the new lighting laws. Or like when they wanted to phase out the light bulb, there was no hiding it. GE planned for it. So they basically waited until they had all their ducks in a row and they could change over to the new light bulbs and make a ton of money off of it. Now the government can say, well, we want to make sure we want to reduce energy costs. We want to make sure that there's a large business like GE capable to supply the marketplace with those kind of things. But how does that help me, right? So, anyways, you guys have other questions? Yeah.
I own a business and I'm starting another one. The first one's the LLC, the next one's the S corporation. And on the IRS form 2553, they had to turn in your S corp election. I was just wondering, for your tax year, what do you find most, I guess, beneficial? Do you elect just to have the standard tax year ending December 31st, or would you rather just have like a special year so maybe you're not getting bogged down with personal income taxes at the same time?
That's a good question. I don't know that we've ever had a business that we didn't do just calendar year. I can't remember a reason for it. And to be quite honest, once I got a lawyer/finance guy as my business partner, I outsourced. So whatever he says goes, you know, he's usually right.
Okay, Aaron's just trying to get free tax advice.
I am actually, yeah. I don't have a tax partner yet, so.
When you're looking to acquire certain corporations, what are you looking at necessarily? What kind of metrics? Or are you looking at the business model, the philosophies of the business? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so I mean, to a certain degree, private equity firms like messy companies. And what I mean by messy is, so let's say that the industry average is getting 12% in earnings, right? So if you're doing 50 million in sales, you know, you should be getting six to the bottom line, or an EBITDA. You guys know EBITDA?
Yeah.
Okay. Making sure that I'm not throwing out terms. Let's say the industry average is 12%, and this company is only getting 8. At first you say, well, we don't want to touch this company. You know, they seem not to be very efficient. And you're like, no, that's great, because we're assuming that we're going to buy this company and add efficiencies, and now there's a lot of room to grow. Now, on the flip side, if I get a company that's getting 15% to the bottom line, you're like, oh, this is great, they're really efficient. Yeah, so there's not a lot of room for us to improve it. Now, ideally, you can put two of those companies together. Take the efficiencies of the one, add it to the inefficiencies of the other, get them all on the same platform, and everybody wins. But you know what we're looking for, it depends on the deal. Right now, the private equity firm that we're working with prefers management to stay in place. They want to buy a controlling interest, usually somewhere between 70 and 80%. They want to have the management team stay on if they're capable and have an incentive to stick around for the exit. So you know, you don't want to buy 99% of the company because they're probably not going to stick around. You don't want to buy 51% of the company because they have too much influence. And so you know, it's kind of a sweet spot in between. And it's a nice deal for the owners. So just a real quick math on it. If you got a $50 million revenue company, they're getting just use easy numbers, they're getting $5 million in EBITDA, and this is a 5x you know, kind of valuation market. That's worth about $25 million. So if you buy 50% of the company, they're getting a $12.5 million check. And then they get to participate when you sell it again, when the company's now not worth $25 million, it's worth $60 million, and they still own 49%. They're like, shoot, I made $12 million, and then when it was worth it, and then you know, if I had sold all of it at 25, I would have only made 25. Now I'm going to end up making 12.5 plus 30. So that's, you know. Now there are other guys that'll say the first thing we're going to do is going to get rid of everybody on the top because we don't want to deal with any, you know, unknowns. So it really depends. Other questions? This is actually fun. I really enjoy this. And you know, you never know how these things are going to work. So, not that I should be that surprised.
Thanks so much, you guys.
No, thank you.
Appreciate it. At least the board's still here,
I liked it without the PowerPoint.
Yeah, and it probably would have confined me too much. And it would have taken me. I would have, you know, somehow you feel like a slave to like go through every slide.
No, I know. I used to refuse to use them in class. But these guys, especially in undergraduate, they get so used to it. And if you don't do it, they hate it.